Hi everyone, so I just wanted to give a quick demo on my chatbot. So the progress that I've made so far, I've been working a lot with memory. So I've actually incorporated in structured memory input and output for this. So it'll basically be able to have multiple points of relevance to your recall of it. So before I was just listing it all. If you look at the chat, let's say if I open up a notepad, before it'd be like user, hi, AI, hello, how how can I help you? This is what a memory file would look like before. User AI, user AI, user AI. Okay, it would be um, information would be there, but it would not have any vectoring to how it was relevant to the other stuff in that context, which is what I found out incredibly important when you're dealing with a AI chatbot. So now I have structured memory output, and it can define the time in which the message was received, the fact that these two things are relevant to one another, and a summary of longer messages into shorter messages. So I'm just gonna demonstrate how that is. So I'm gonna say, "Hi, my name is Sean." So I already released a video on this. I'm gonna go over a lot of the same information because there's much better video quality on this one than the last one. So if you watched the last video, I apologize. Um, so I'm gonna say, "Tell it my name." Pretty fast. I don't have things like type streaming on it yet, where the words flow into the window and not all in one message, but I'm working on that currently. So I can say, "What's my name?" So it remembers my name and remembers everything. I could say, "Tell me 5 random names starting, or let's say sounding that sound like they are, I don't know, Spanish." That'll be an easy one. Yep. Give these names last names. So this is just a bunch of really vague prompts up against a bunch of information that I have stored. And so it's procedurally generating this memory file and relating the context that I'm asking, relating what I'm asking to for it back to the context of the memory file, if that makes sense for everybody else. So it remembers the names. Let's say, "What's my name?" Not the list of names. I want to know what's my name. So Sean, and knows my name is different from the list of names that it had before, and it knows first and last names. Sorry for the long explanation, but there's a lot to get through here. So I could say, "Give the random names a backstory," and then I'll give each of the 5 names a backstory in order of what it presented on the GUI. There we go. So let's just check the order. Alejandro, Isabella, Diego. And they all got background info. Um, and it's all kind of Spanish sounding stuff, which would make sense. So now we could say, "Give these names in a new random order without backstory." So to we want to try to confuse it. So there's names all over the place, backstories, no backstories. So it has to search through the file in order to update its info and to really understand what you're asking for it. So I want to say, um, "Tell me a story where the names in order of original appearance from the first query. Tell me a story in the names in the original order from the first query." Yeah. I want them to travel to five different oops, different nations in Canada, and then end up in Cabo, Mexico. That makes somewhat sense, being that they're Spanish. So now there's no I basically what I'm asking for it to do is to get the first time it listed the names, and in that order to create a story where they go to 5 different places and end up in Cabo, which they have clearly done. And let's see, closest friends decided to travel to Canada. They began in Vancouver, one, led them to Stanley Park, two to Ottawa, three, four, five. So they have 5 destinations. It's in Canada. They ended up in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and yeah, it was exactly as I wanted it. So let's just check the original order. So Alejandro, Isabella, Diego. Alejandro, Isabella, Diego. So that's perfect, as you can see. And then if I say, what industry do I work in? Oh, I didn't say it. Okay, and then I'll say, what's my name? That was my fault. So at least we know that it's not just giving stuff to give stuff. Um, so I can say, I work in tech. And I say, what's the story I told you earlier about? So it can remember everything. It's just like really just like talking to a person. Like it's pretty much it passes simple Turing tests as much as I could give it. Now, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't really know exactly what I'm talking about when I say Turing tests. I'm just using it as an example. Uh, so this is a conversations file that was made for this conversation, and it's going to store all that data for lookup, and it's procedurally generated as the data or as the conversation continues. So this is a good example of what the AI is reading as you're querying it. So it stores the message and it stores it in order. And this is all CSV. I'm just doing that for ease of access. It will be adapted to be SQL because SQL is even better than CSV for structured data. Um, but so far we have a timestamp, which contains both the user message and the AI response. I may get these separated into two different rows and just merge that together. I'm not sure. This is pretty. This is kind of the first iteration of this table. Uh, and then the summary happens. The summary is going to be confusing at first, but basically what happens is this is if you've ever worked with CSV or sheets, this is the lookup column. So I will ask it a question in here, and it'll look up the information in here. If I say what's my name, it'll go, oh, that's a summary where you said your name. And then it'll look in the message uh, cell that's relevant to that. So this is not useful for smaller messages. So basically, I just copied the same message over to here with Python, so it's not costing you anything from OpenAI. So it's just going to look at this row first, and then this row eventually. It's not doing that right now, but eventually it will. So basically, once it gets to really long messages, I think it's the cutoff is 100 words if I remember correctly. Then it creates a summary of that uh, story of that cell, and the summary it's like a meta description on a web page. It embeds the information into that cell here, and then if the query matches this cell, then it looks at this cell, and then it's like, oh, okay, it works. I have the correct information. Then present this cell to the user, whatever the query was based upon it, and then it knows where or when it happened. So it can tell you in which order you received it and which was the first and next message to that. Because I realized that uh, AI, the whole point of a token when it's processed is to get the next most relevant thing to the thing that was asked of it. So from the prompt, the next most relevant thing, whatever that thing is. And if there's the more points of relevancy to the more points of context to relevancy, it's kind of like a web. The thicker the more strands of the web, the more the more accurate the search result will be. Um, eh, so I can now that we're past all that, you can see all that's working perfectly, and memory call is great, and storage is as you would expect it. Now this is super useful for other people as well. We for customers as well. We can update the model on the fly, and it can read off the same CSV sheet without having to change models, which is a problem from uh, like Hugging Chat. From what I've seen, whenever you switch languages, it resets the conversation. So if I just say that and I ask it, what is your model name? It'll say, I'm Claude and I aim to be direct and honest. Made Claude by Anthropic, made to be direct and honest about what I am. And now if I say, what's my name? Since it's reading off this sheet, it already knows all this stuff, and we don't have to put it in. And say, what was the original 5 names I told you earlier? So now it should say this one here. Give it a second, and it said, yeah, it says Alejandro Isabella Diego, and then it changed it, or it gave backstories, I guess, here. And you can see that's pretty awesome because it knows that happened later after this happened. Let's say, what were the 2 orders of appearance? They were 2 separate lists. Forgive my typing abilities. I'm doing this on the fly. So the original order was Alejandro Isabella Diego, and the new order was Fernando Carmen, right? Fernando Carmen Isabella, which is Fernando Carmen Isabella. And say, what industry do I work in? I don't know if I told it. Yeah, I did. Okay, I work in tech, and obviously that's right. So it's I'm just starting to use it, so it's gonna be evolving pretty quick. And once I figure out how to do things, it's gonna evolve even faster. And I'm also excited to get to the point where I'm implementing local reg to develop it, and so I'll be able to look at the whole path and develop the whole system as a script. But that'll take time and a little bit more powerful of a graphics card that I currently have. Right now, I'm using Hugging Chat with Quinn 2.5 coder mainly as my language, and I'm pretty happy with it. I got a lot more stuff coming down the line. Oh, and also, uh, I should mention that I have a memory folder for each conversation. So all this conversation is stored in here on your computer. So you can just grab that and make a copy of it and send it to someone else, and it's still there. Um, yeah, and you send it to them, and someone else who's using Odin will just be able to load it in and use that. And so also remember that I'm going to upload the new sheet, and it'll have all the other information that we have that we talked about when we talk to Claude instead of Grok, because it's all procedurally generated, so the sheet expands as you expand it. So now it knows this stuff as well. It's pretty exciting, and I don't have it's not multimodal yet. I will be doing that. I'll upload a file uploader as well as web search and a bunch of other stuff. And I don't know how I plan on selling it. Maybe one day. This is mainly just a passion project. It's teaching me a lot about this stuff as well as AI in relation to SEO, which is what I currently do for a living. So I'm really trying to get out ahead of that trend. Okay, I appreciate the uh, time. If you found it interesting, please follow me.